Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet. Well, a major air safety question mark is now hanging over Air India after new details emerged in the probe into the AI 2379 incident. The flight bound for New Delhi reportedly suffered a sudden and severe loss of altitude at cruising height, with flight data analysis pointing to a descent of around 676 feet. Inside the cockpit, oral and system alerts allegedly erupted together. The autopilot disengaged and the aircraft experienced a sharp negative G excursion. The aircraft eventually stabilized, but the incident has raised serious questions about what happened inside the cockpit and how the incident was handled afterwards. The pilot later made a pan call to Delhi ATC, an international urgency signal used when assistance may be required, but where there is no immediate distress signal. Now, questions are also being raised over alleged marijuana consumption by the pilot in command and whether Air India had any prior knowledge of it. Another key question is whether the first flight safety report was fully disclosed, with the reported document containing 13 warnings, including hydraulic failure warnings, an autopilot off warning and low hydraulic fuel alerts. Air India has since announced mandatory substance screening for all group pilots starting today. And with the government now pushing for an expedited probe, the FDR and CVR secured, and an interim AAIB report expected within a month, the big question is, was this simply a terrifying flight incident, or were serious safety failures missed, minimized, or hidden? Let's talk about that. But before that, let's quickly take a look at the full incident in sequence to get a better rundown of what exactly may have happened. All right, let's go to the big screen and try and give you some insights into what this really was all about. Well, the full incident. 7:40 a.m. boarding begins at gate 15 for AI 2379 flight. Nothing wrong so far. It's a pleasant experience for most people who are trying to board a flight from any of the airports in India or anywhere in the world as well. Unsuspecting passengers getting onto the flight. Passengers speak to the pilot in command, asking him what time the flight is, if there are any delays, just the usual small talk that happens between passengers. Pilot in command is slow to respond, and his eyes are red is what was also ascertained. The flight takes off from New Delhi at 8:25 a.m. The flight is obviously headed for Phuket, a very popular destination. The flight begins losing altitude at 9:32 a.m., which is right in the morning. And this is, of course, when everything goes haywire. The passengers who are not belted are obviously thrown to the roof of the aircraft. The captain standing behind first captain's seat is discussing the AC system when this transpires. And obviously, there's a lot of commotion in the aircraft as well. Oral and ECAM alerts have erupted together, warning the pilots that they need to in fact take some measures to make sure that the stability of the aircraft is maintained. The autopilot has been disengaged and the nose pitches up. This is obviously after manual intervention from the pilots who took control of the aircraft and made sure. The first officer responds with a train stall recovery response, and this is often what they are trained for. This is obviously also giving us a sense of how badly this aircraft may have been disoriented when it fell. The plane accelerates downwards faster than gravity, and these are of course visual representation of what may have happened on that fateful day. Every loose object in the cockpit starts floating upward, and this in itself could be some sort of a projectile which could have injured any of the pilots. The jet exceeds 1G structural limit during the event, and as you can clearly see from this video, the pilot is thrown around the cockpit and then activated the seatbelt sign. Obviously, there are times when passengers like to walk around, take off their seat belt, and if some of them were caught in the middle of this turbulence and this event, then they must have been severely injured. The pilot pushes the throttle to maximum thrust to arrest the loss of speed. The aircraft stabilizes after dropping almost 700 feet, which in itself could be a very scary proposition when you're in air. The pilots check on each other and assess the cockpit situation. Things have been put under control, but they don't know what's going on back. Outside of the flight, obviously, there is a lot of commotion. The aircraft itself is not stable at this point in time. The Kolkata air traffic notified, but pilots opt out on emergency landing. And this is the entire course of what actually happened and what has been published in the media as well. The pilot gave pan call to Delhi ATC after entering Delhi, which I already explained is not an emergency, but it is perhaps a note to the ATC to understand that there is distress. The urgency signal suggesting assistance is required for people on board. Many injuries were reported, and such a fall can definitely injure people beyond comprehension. And there was, of course, injury to a number of people who were without their belts. A lot of times people just hold on to their belts loosely, but the ones who were not aware that something like this would happen were obviously caught off guard and injured. All right, Captain Kesri Singh, Chief Pilot Officer, is with us on the show. Dr. Vandana Singh, aviation expert, also joins us. Group Captain Dr. M.J. Augustine Vinod, former Indian Air Force officer, fighter jet pilot of the Mirage 2000. Group Captain U.K. Devnath, former Indian Air Force pilot, also joins us on the program. Dr. Vandana Singh, I'll begin with you. You've spoken a lot about what happened here, but the fact of the matter is that if the pilot had been incapacitated a day before because of sleeping pills or consumption of any kind of a drug, there needs to be a more robust system of figuring out. It should not be random that they are incapacitated as a result of not getting sleep or being on any kind of a recreational drug. This is passenger safety, the lives of hundreds of passengers that we are talking about. The situation, Dr. Vandana Singh, could have been worse. But the fact of the matter is, we can downplay the fact that the pilots were compromised in some way or the other, but we can also appreciate the fact that they did eventually save this aircraft as well.
Good evening, Vineet, and good evening to all the NewsX viewers and to the fellow panelists. Vineet, we can debate opinions, but what we cannot debate is that there has been a 600 or a 700 feet drop, that there was 17 injuries, including one child, that today, day 8, we have no report, that NTSB and FAA release a report within 72 hours. There is no preliminary report. Now we are hearing that it is going to take a month, that it is not clear whether this was clear air turbulence, whether it was hydraulic failure, whether it was a technical glitch. Then the confirmation on the second dope test that has been performed. So you see an entire concoction here, and you also see the fact that no CRM. I don't see a proper CRM protocol as per ICAO that has been followed over here. Fine, there was a pan call. Then the other pilot had taken over. But what was done for the unfit crew? What was the SOP that was followed? These are a lot of questions over here. And, the country looks for answers. 8 days later, we don't know if this is technical turbulence or human error. And people are waiting to see evidence. And I believe transparency and investigation can carry on at the same time. And disclosure is very important, and people are getting more and more scared. Therefore, we have to come up with the facts, and here it is now clear that the CRM has also failed. And crew resource management is something that the communication itself, listening, speaking up, calming people down, communicating and finding a solution, this itself can save an aircraft. So while I appreciate that it's a win with all these 137 lives plus crew that has been saved, but it is a huge question mark on aviation safety, accountability, and CRM protocol and SOP that was followed by the Air India pilots. So this is a huge question mark, and they have to answer all of this. And we are waiting. And if we keep waiting, then there will be a lot of rumors, and the rumors have to be put to rest by coming up with the facts. Over to you, Vineet.
Right. Group Captain Dr. Augustine, do you concur with Dr. Vandana Singh that this is a huge concern, that SOPs need to be established now? Because if a pilot, despite the DGCA's revision of some of these rules last year, is still stretched and stressed because of lack of sleep, then obviously this requires a relook. If you remember that, last year in December, when Indigo and their schedules went haywire because of DGCA mandating certain calendar rules and safety as well as rest rules, those were done so that pilots get enough rest. It seems that was not enough. There's more to be done.
Vineet, before I go on to the three separate thread details, let me quickly pose a question to the viewers, you and all and sundry. Say, forget toxicology, report of the pilots, which has come positive and which is absolutely harakiri, if you ask me. And such people do not have any place in the cockpit. That absolutely is loud and clear in all over aviation community, all over the world, including India. That said, forget the toxicology report and assume instead of marijuana positive, if the pilot pilot was suffering from loose motion and vomiting and little bit of itching here and itching there, would the outcome have been different? That is my question to you. Instead of marijuana, if it was his, loosies and vomiting that he was suffering from, would the outcome have been different? With that larger question, let me go to the three threads. Two are connected, one is not connected. The two connected threads are A, the transient technical failure. Apart from Mirage 2000, I have close to 6,000 hours on this particular aeroplane. So that is why I'm saying this. I mean, this aeroplane is like the back of my hand, and that is why I'm saying this. Okay? The transient failure occurs due to turbulence, or if there is a sudden pitch down due to a technical reason, which only people who have access to the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder can tell you, and which they now are telling 1 month. I don't know whether it will come out in 1 month. If at all it does, I will be surprised. That said, only those people have visibility to that. So I repeat, a transient failure leading to pitch down or a turbulence leading to pitch down. Therefore, people hitting the roof and getting hurt is the reason. The pilot who was in controls of this aeroplane when this happened was not the marijuana positive pilot. He was the other pilot. So there, I want to make a distinction so that viewers understand. The captain, also called the pilot in command, can do two jobs, PF and PM. PF is pilot flying, PM is pilot monitoring. Pilot flying can be the captain or the co-pilot. In this case, the pilot flying was the co-pilot who's not marijuana positive. That one needs to make a distinction. So that is the third thread. So the third thread of the weak link in any system, which is the human in the loop, had, in my opinion, nothing to do with what happened here. Like I said, if instead of marijuana, if he had a bad stomach, the outcome would have been exactly the same. Therefore, hanging, this investigation around pilot's capability, if you ask me, Vineet, is a red herring. What we need to go deeply is why did the transient failure happen, and or why, upon hitting a turbulent packet of air, there was a pitch down, or was it this transient failure that caused the pitch down? So these are the questions for which, Vineet, you and I will get the answer down the road. Now, coming back to the harakiri which I talked about initially, of a inebriated or a pilot who has consumed, whatever substance being in the cockpit. In some countries, it is death. Believe you me. In many Middle Eastern countries and some countries, I think, including Myanmar and all that, it is death. Therefore, but ICAO says you need to test everyone at random. That is International Civil Aviation Organization's ruling. Now, India, prior to every flight does breath analyzer test. But flights coming from abroad into India, Indian carriers coming from abroad into India, including the cabin crew, they do breath analyzer post-flight. Why? Because most abroad, rules do not have a mandatory pre-flight breath analyzer check. Only India has it, and maybe one or two countries have it. So we are more stringent than an ICAO rule. Suppose I'm coming from Phuket or Dubai, if I have to do a pre-flight, breath analyzer check, the procedure does not exist in those countries. It is random test. So, it is very easy to, bash the regulator. The regulator, most of the time, and the ruling government, most of the time gets bashed, and maybe we must ask right questions. But is this the right question we are asking? Or we are asking a question, therefore, in the direction where the right question that we should ask is not being asked. Are you getting my point? I can't be more subtle than this.
I am. I'm getting the point.
So we need to understand this. And that is why wherever I go, I tell all the panelists that we need to ask the right question. The right question is passenger safety. The right question is somewhere else. हम कहीं और क्रिकेट खेल रहे हैं, विनीत. हमको सही जगह क्रिकेट खेलना चाहिए, सही पिच पे खेलना चाहिए. हम गलत पिच पे क्रिकेट खेल रहे हैं.
You're quite right about that. I catch your drift. Let me also get a perspective from Group Captain UK Devnath in this very important and sensitive matter. Group Captain Devnath, where do you stand here? Obviously, passenger safety cannot be compromised with. Dr. Vandana spoke of SOPs. Is the system airtight? No pun intended. Is the system airtight when it comes to making sure that some of these loopholes, which still find themselves at the helm of every aviation story in our country, are somehow negotiated with, dealt with?
Vineet, I'll just speak as an aviation administrator. Difficulty are there. Practical difficulties are there in making the entire procedure airtight. Limitations are like breath analyzer test can be done. We all have undergone it while driving a car. A similar test is done on pilots mostly before flight. Now that gives you instant result, but it catches only alcohol content. Difficulty, Vineet, is that dope tests, you have taken any kind of a drug, narcotic substance, in this case marijuana, that has to be confirmed only by, only way to confirm is by a urine test or by a blood sample test. Thereafter, we can visualize that once a pilot gives his blood or urine sample, it will definitely, airport does not have any accredited laboratory within airport complex to test it. It has to go to a recognized laboratory which is also registered by that particular airline, say in India, DGCA also. Now, what happens, that blood test or urine test, when it goes to laboratory, the sample takes anywhere between 6 to 12 hours to be tested. So obviously by that time, the pilot has already reached his destination and landed. So you can't do urine test and blood test view this administrative restriction limitation before flight. So it is always done, if at all done, post flight. Now all the airlines have their own rules. In most countries, it is done at random. Say there are thousands of flights landing Vineet every day, and double the amount of pilots. It is practically not possible to do a blood test and urine test on thousands of flights which are landing every day. It is just not feasible administratively. So what is done? You carry out a random test and say, okay, 10% of the pilots will be tested at random. Or you say, okay, in case something has gone wrong in the air, some incident or minor accident, or in case there is a complaint, then after landing, the pilot, co-pilot, whosoever it is, cabin crew, will be
All right, sir.
tested through urine test or blood
You're quite
test.
right.
But
So there are challenges within the system. You know, a blood test or any kind of a test has its own constraints and timeline. So obviously the system definitely needs a relook. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I would like to appreciate everybody who joined in and weighed in with their perspective. Well, with that, let's